Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm Will Dragon, and this is our continuing playthrough of Suzerain. We are the president of Swordland, and we are trying to make the country great once more. We're doing okay. I think I've been, putting in some good policies and all that kind of stuff, but our budget is currently on a -9, which is not good. Our economy is still on a downward trend, which does not really justify the government budget currently as it stands. And yeah, things could be going better. At the end of our last turn, here you go. Delivered a press conference in Hallam about the escalating tensions in Helgeland. He is, Chancellor Vauxland is kind of having to go against Agnolia, who we just failed to make a new trade deal with. Protests and occasional looting in past weeks has ceased in the city of Lankerg. There you go, the rioting has apparently ended. That's good. We're just lacking any kind of road network up in this area. And down in Ribble. Bigger police were ambushed in Ribble by 2 underage suspects armed with KA-74 as part of the British Freedom Front. That is an interesting piece of news to get just before we go and do some trade talks with Welland. Someone who is very much pursuing the British Freedom Front and pushing a lot of them over the border into our country. We'll see what they have to say. Like I said, our last trade talks with England did not go well. They demanded too much of us, and we had to turn them down. Swordland 1's flight from Hulsord to Raklowitz took approximately 5 hours. Despite heavy turbulence, I managed to sleep a little. Simon, David, and I landed on the international airport of capital city of Welland. Our aim here was to finalize the deal drafted between Swordland and Welland. Our plane landed and the door opened. The sun blinded me for a moment. I stepped outside. I saw the soldiers lined up on either side of the red carpet. There must have been at least 100 of them. A marching band started playing and the soldiers immediately saluted me. Seated to the red carpet without any gestures. Can I not just have waved? Bottom of the stairs, Victor Smollett was waiting for me next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. There were a few reporters at the edge of the crowd waiting with their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses and a regular suit, contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. He is a prominent Wessex politician and the current president of Welland. Mr. President, welcome to Raklowitz. He immediately motioned for an embrace. We hugged and many cameras went off at the same time. He turned around for a couple of additional poses. Nice to see you, Mr. President. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We'll take the jeep for a tour. With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat in the driver's seat and I sat next to him. As we started speeding up, these soldiers saluted again. Victor saluted back. Do nothing. Both of our security details started following us immediately along with a team of reporters. We will first go to the city center to see the unveiling of a statue. Whose statue? Mine, of course. We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather as we made our way towards the city center. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Aside from them, though, the streets seemed completely empty. Is Raklowitz always this empty? I had this part of the city closed down because of your visit so that you could enjoy the city in peace. There we are. We arrived at the center. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Large crowds of people were gathered behind fences, waving both Swordland and Welland flags. Victor waved back at them. My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I am sure you are delighted to see them. The man came closer to the fences and started yelling at Victor. With my limited knowledge of the Wessex language, I understand the words Victor and murderer. Almost instantaneously, 2 soldiers came up from behind the man and he was taken away. Thankfully, the sun is out. Today will be a good day for the reveal. What will happen to the man who was protesting you? Oh, which man? That one in the crowd? Don't worry about the details. He must have been a troubled fellow. Let's focus on the event. We took our places in front of the statue. With a drum roll, the statue of Victor Smollett was uncovered. It was a fairly good likeness, albeit more muscular than his real Victor, the real man. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword in his hand. Excellent statue, very lifelike. What do you think? Let's get straight to business. I don't really like this very much. Don't worry, we will. Join me for a walk. I followed him through the streets. At every corner, more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor on the street. Give me 2 strudels. The man behind the stand smiled and gave us 2 strudels. Pay the street vendor. Hold up, your money doesn't count here, I got this. He handed the money to the street vendor with a huge smile on his face. The cameras flashed again. Afterwards, we walked a short distance to the palace. Passing the gates, we made our way into the main building, made from ivory-coloured stones. The old guard towers flanked the magnificent structure from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious, with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Grand staircases made from the same ivory stone had red carpets on them. On the upper levels, guards stood wearing the traditional outfits of the Wessex Kingdom. We finally reached the office of the President of Wellon. The door closed behind us. I looked around at the golden ornaments on the walls and the various jewel-encrusted artifacts. As it was customary in Wellon, we sat down on the carpet. Now we can talk about our trade deal. Nod. But before that, he clapped his hands twice. Bring the quiche. A few assistants immediately entered the room carrying a large ornamental quiche, the well-known smoking instrument originating from Wellon. They immediately lit it up, and the room was filling with the smell of tobacco. Victor inhaled the smoke and handed me the quiche. I don't smoke. Your loss is the finest tobacco in the land. Took another puff, filling the room with more smoke. So, Mr. President. Bah, that's too long. Can I call you Anton? Sure. Tell me, what do you really think about Rumberg? Not much in particular. Yes, they do, but their ambitions are over Wellon and Swordland. We must be careful, Anton. I assure you their time will come. I would rather prevent further conflict in the region. You know as well as I do, Anton, they are not coming whether we like it. They are coming whether we like it or not. They are the aggressor, not us. And now I need to solve some problems that they are creating for me. I'm listening. He clapped his hands again. 2 assistants came into the room with a map of the border regions between Wellon and Swordland. He pointed at the border. Look. Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. They are getting increasingly dangerous with Rumberg's active support. I know that they are a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist within my borders, so I will hit them with all the might of Wellon. These terrorists need to be destroyed. I will cut all their supplies from Rumberg and trap them on the mountains. I call it Operation Bear Trap. What do you want from me? He grinned and lay back on the large pillow behind him. Here is the deal. I will give you, objectively, the best trade deal in the region. You will give me your assistance crushing the terrorists on both of our borders. I need specifics. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they found caches of KA-74s. We traced them back to Rumberg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we also found that similar shipments are going to Swordland. Rumberg is trying to unite the BFF forces in both of our countries. However, the main problem is the border security between our nations. BFF militants have been using the mountains between Swordland and Welling to escape justice in both of our countries. If we don't act and trap them in those mountains, they will replenish their forces in both of our countries and keep waging war against our citizens. Yes, Anton, you see, this is not just Wellon's problem. Let's take a step back and talk about what you will get in return. I propose you a no-tariff agreement, co-investment projects, and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the armed militants in my country. You know that as long as they use the mountains in Wellon as a base, Swordland and Lesbia will equally suffer. This is in the interest of the whole region. Why would you offer me so much? Why wouldn't I? I want Swordland to be Welland's friend. Question is, do you also want Welland as your friend? What I want from you in return for all the money and resources is only a joint operation between our armies against the BFF. No deal. I want nothing to do with this. Now, politically, I'm potentially shooting myself in the foot. I've already turned down Angland's deal. And now I am about to not make Welland my friend either. Normally I wouldn't offer anything else, but I like you. Here is my final offer. When the operation starts, with you or without you, there will be stragglers trying to cross into Swordland. We just want you to stop the operation. Support the operation even if you do not join. Stop the terrorists from fleeing into your country, and you will have your deal. Simple, isn't it? So what do you think? No deal. It's unfortunate. I thought we could be friends, but you decided to leave Welland to fend for itself. Such a shame. I am sure a powerful leader like Sol would have accepted this great offer without a doubt. My assistants will show you the way. Goodbye, Mr. Rain. Take care of yourself, Victor. I return to Swordland immediately. Felt relieved to be back in Holsword. That is... The stuff going on in that country was terrifying. That's the only way I can put it. Now, like I said, I have kind of shot myself slightly in the foot. Agnolia. I mean, they're about to pick a war with Vagsland. They're about to pick a war with Rumburg. There is no doubt about that after they've finished doing very dodgy things in their own country, where their own citizens is running up to him and calling him a murderer. So yeah, ATO brokers for peace amidst Rizian claims. Lesbia mediates. Tensions triggered by Rizia's territorial claims over the Aureus gas fields and the pressure exerted on Pales. The ATO has been issued an advisory caution against potential disturbances in the region's stability, with ATO's commitment to protect the interest of its member states, both economically and strategically. A key ATO member and home to Les Power Core, a significant player in the energy industry, is stepping in to mediate the dispute, seeking to avert a potentially destabilizing conflict over the lucrative gas fields. The ATO's stance on this dispute, particularly given Lesbia's involvement, highlights its readiness to protect its strategic interests and its capacity for diplomacy in managing region's tensions. So they, if I remember, they basically jumped in, caused a problem, and they're now trying to tell everybody else to back off. In a bold counter move to the ATO's recent legitimization of PMCs, the CSP has outlawed these entities, making it clear that it prioritizes state-regulated forces and, as a secondary measure, citizen militias and revolutionaries to uphold security within its territories. Interesting. Let's go back home to Holsword. We just have one thing on the cards, which is the speech of the president on the reforms. We are currently looking like, if I remember from the previous points, that we have maybe 2/3 of our party's inclusion. I believe I do need 160 votes, if I remember off the top of my head. I might have 80 to 90 of my party on board, so I need another 50 or so. If I have the support of the PFJP, we could be okay. I came to the Grand National Assembly of Swordland to deliver a speech regarding the new constitution and ask for support of the assembly before the upcoming vote. I walked quickly through the corridors, giving my greetings to people on my way towards the parliamentary hall. When I entered the hall, the assembly was in complete chaos, with shouting and cursing between the parties. There was a heavy argument about a proposal made by an MP from NFP. I took my seat inside the special area reserved for the ministers. Gloria was shouting from her seat at the center of the hall. She did say she would support us. She is one of the traditionalists. At the center of the hall, as she hit the gravel 3 times, with each strike heavier than the last. Oh no, so it wasn't her. Or was it not? I can't remember. I feel like it was her that said she'd support me. Order, order. I saw Saro Kibana stand up from his seat and shouting towards the members of the PFJP. He is part of the National Front Party, who control 40 seats, so a little bit. Mr. Kibana, calm yourself. Show respect to the procedures of this assembly. Despite her efforts, the arguments continued for a couple of minutes before everyone took back to their seats and finally went quiet. Mr. Kibana, next time when I tell you to do so, either take your seat or leave the hall, so we can proceed with the procedure of this assembly and continue our duties. Some MPs from the NFP side shouted back at her in protest. Honourable ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me to continue, she pointed at me. We have the President here with us today. He is asked to give an important announcement. The Assembly fell silent. You have the floor, Mr. President. I walked to the stand as loud clapping started in the USP's side. Honourable members of the Assembly. I am here today to raise important questions regarding our outdated Constitution. The elected assembly has always been overshadowed by the execution and the designated judiciary branches in Swordland. The Grand National Assembly must be able to exercise its job properly and without obstruction. However, our current constitution fails to guarantee this. I continued. We propose changes to the constitution to prepare Swordland for a more democratic era. We must finally rewrite the constitution of Sol and break our chains of the past. I call everyone to stand by us to make historic changes to our constitution and bring it to the standards of today's world. More democratic era. The constitution to prepare Swordland for a more democratic era. From the USP and PFJP. That's good. That's good. There's a lot of votes in there. We will rebalance the branches of government to ensure a more democratic process. I focused on unity. It is more important than ever that we stand united as a nation in these changing times. I'll call everybody to be part of the change our people has been calling for. We all want to make Swordland better, don't we? Let's embrace democracy and unite under the banner of our people, and surely Swordland will be great again. We will make Swordland great again. Loud noises came from the USP and NFP seats. That's probably not good. I took a breath and continued. We must set aside our differences. Join us and vote. Be part of a new era for Swordland. Let us write the future together. Finish with a poem. There is a destiny above destiny. There is victory growing with every morning. Victory. There is God beyond existence or non-existence. There is my country beyond everything, my beloved. There are songs to be sung in affection of our victories. There is a spring that blossoms out of the graves of our fallen. There is the evil that tortures and tears. There are songs to be sung in affection of our victories. Do not doubt the one. There is a decision coming for... fear not when the dark falls. There is an artist painting the sun. Do not dare to surrender. There is a victory that grows with defeat. Beyond the next morning, there is a victory waiting to be won. Roared with all kinds of different reactions. Some applauses came from PFJP and USP seats. Most of the others started to make loud noises again. Thank you for the speech, Mr. President. I don't think that went very well, if I'm honest. I walked back to my seat as many MPs asked to speak. Franz Richter was among them. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. I would like to thank Mr. President for his speech. We, the People's Freedom and Justice Party, stands in agreement with the need for a more democratic constitution. I would like to thank the ladies and gentlemen of the United Swordland Party for their more open attitude compared to past years. As long as Mr. President's words prove not to be just words, we will be behind this much-needed movement for change. We welcome this attempt. I ask Mr. President to share the final contents of these proposals as soon as possible. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. Suddenly, Kisaro Kibana started yelling from his seat. The President must have lost his mind to cooperate with the likes of you, Mr. Richter. You and the PFJP are nothing but puppets of Western interests. Madam Speaker, I know you're in agreement with me as well. Don't stand idly there while this administration is making deals with snakes and undermine the integrity of... Order, Mr. Kibana. How many times do I need to say? You are speaking out of... I demand to speak. Gloria gave him a stare. She looked annoyed. Very well, Mr. Kibana, go ahead. Mr. President, the nationalist movement does not agree with your priorities, nor the way you're trying to implement them. The National Front Party will not stand with you on your new constitution. Let it be known that the NFP's concerns are not included in this so-called democratic reforms. Thus, Mr. President has no right to claim them as such. Ultra-conservative political party in Swordland, which currently is the second biggest opposition party in the... Well, there's only 3 parties. We will stand our ground against any attempt to bring down our established political culture and national values. Thank you. Kisaro went back to his seat, but the chaos in the assembly continued. Ask to speak. Yes, Mr. President. Ooh, Mr. Kibana. We are not specifically cooperating with someone, but everyone. It is you who shouldn't use the word democratic when you want a more centralized government. I'm saddened to hear about your opposite stance. He watched as he slouched on his seat, legs crossed. I respect your opinion. Thank you. Gloria looked at me to see if I'd finished my response. Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. I got up from my seat and started my walk towards the exit. MPs kept shouting and responding to each other, creating a loud mess where nothing was legible. Order, order, this topic is finished. We are moving on to our next topic. I slowly left the hall. The shouting could be heard from every corridor of the Grand National Assembly. There you have it. We have just given a rather loud assembly speech for a rather animated crowd. President Rain has called upon the Grand National Assembly of Swordland to support the upcoming constitutional changes in his address in the Parliament. The President's address came after a series of meetings within the USP, which probably involved discussions about the new constitution. President Rain talked about the main points of their proposed changes and revealed that the current draft will be looked over again with the leaders of the PFJP before it is proposed in the Parliament. Oh, does it have to be? I don't want to deal with those people. Walker warns Valgslandian Navy over Helgeland dispute. Agnolian Vagsland keeps climbing. The latest addition to the escalation happened yesterday on the Vagoslavian channel when Vagslandian ships started advancing on the perimeter around the island. According to the Agnolian sources, yesterday in the morning, the Agnolian battleship Van Gilben had intercepted a Vagslandian destroyer, Stanisen, and warned them to move out of Agnolian waters. The Vagslandian captain did not respond to the communication, but both ships backed away from the scene after several hours of standstill. Seeing this event as Vagsland putting pressure over the island, Arcasian President Dwight Walker warned the Vagslandian Navy, saying, "We will not tolerate any attempts to trigger an incident on international waters. I call upon Mr. Hegel, pull back your ships immediately." I'm confused. He warned the Vagslandian Navy, but he's also Mr. Oh no, Mr. Hegel is... Sorry, he's that one. I thought Mr. Hegel, but no, it's Mr... It's something similar. No, Van Horten. That's the one. That's the other president. And we have a report here. Reform status. Lucian Glad reported that so far they have been able to get in total 121 signatures behind the proposal. Efforts are underway to increase the support and to reach out to necessary members to reach 150. So we're not doing bad. We only need 29 more. It would be really, really good to kind of see that in a bit more of a breakdown. How many of those 121 are USP? How many are PFJP? How many are independents? Etc, etc. That'd be really nice. Okay, what do we have? The Economist. Boosting the Economy Central Bank Reinforcement Act. The Central Bank Reinforcement Act is poised to bolster the strength and stability of our national currency and the overall economy, with provisions for accumulating foreign exchange reserves, adopting a prudent fiscal policy, and supporting high export potential industries. Health requires more resources. The latest report coming out of the Ministry of Health regarding the current situation and the need for privatization raises serious questions about the gargantuan scale of effort required to solve the structural issues of health in Swordland. The hidden power of men in uniform. No political leader in Swordland can survive in office without some support from the general staff. President Artur Wisi was a leader who learned his lesson the hard way. In 1927, a military coup brought an end to his short time as president. Well, there you have it. Rizia and Rumburg sign economic cooperation deal. Rumburg gains naval base rights. King Romus Taurus of Rizia visited Thornborough to meet with Queen Beatrice Livingstone of Rumburg and sign a significant economic cooperation deal. As part of the agreement, Rumburg has been granted naval base rights in Rizia. That's not good. So they have naval base rights down here. I mean, they don't have much of a coast to themselves. I don't know what kind of a navy they have, to be honest, but yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Van Horten wins election. General elections held in Agnolia this week has resulted in the victory of the Neurist Democratic Union of Agnolia for the second time, with its leader Martin Van Horten continuing his duties as Prime Minister. Then we have... oh, this place. Governor Braun proposes dividing up communities in... increased Bludish Freedom Front of support in Bludish-dominated neighborhoods in Deer and in Ulbergia. To address the issue, the governor has proposed dividing these communities and resettling Swordish and Bludish people to achieve a cultural balance in the special zone. The governor believes this approach will limit the influence of the BFF and reduce the risk of secessionist activities in the region. Some officials claim that these measures would be directly against the Constitution, and the governor of the special zone does not have the authority to enact such policies. Interesting times. In Holsword, General Staff gathers. The General Staff has convened at the Ministry of Defense today to assess the security conditions of Swordland. More than 20 high-ranking officers were in attendance, and they discussed several war plans, the internal stability of the nation, and the overall state of the armed forces. Privatization plan proposal. The Ministry of Health has finished a privatization proposal plan in order to increase the resources of health system and to increase the quality of services through small-scale market competition. The opening of the Al1 Railway. We're going to start with that. Hopefully it's a good thing. We arrived in Holsword for the grand opening ceremony of the Al1 high-speed railway. It was a proud moment for all of us. Simon and Gus, who heavily assisted the project, were with me, along with Lucian, to decide on how to proceed tomorrow. Lucian stood up. First of all, congratulations everyone. For many more projects like this, I am so happy this project is done. Well done, everyone. We couldn't have done this without our excellent team. Indeed. Let's move on to our plans for the opening tomorrow. It's been a long time since the last successful infrastructure project. There is a good reason to capitalize on the occasion. I have a plan on how to do that. If Mr. President accepts, driving the first high-speed train to Lackavan would be great for our image nationwide. What are your thoughts? I don't support anything beyond the opening ceremony. Actions speak for themselves anyway. I see your point, but involving the President further could be beneficial for the administration. I think so too, Mr. President. Minister of Economy, Minister of Rural Development, Chief Strategist. Do I want to capitalize? Oh, now here's the question. Here's the question. I agree, there is much to gain. Very well. Sounds fantastic. The President arriving to Lackavan on the driver's seat would make the headlines for sure. A large crowd is invited for the ceremony and will be watching the opening speech. Like the good old campaign days. Things were certainly easier back then. Simon stepped in for a comment. On another note, it goes without mentioning that this was a team effort. Beginning with the President who put his trust in me, I want to thank all who were involved in Al1. It was you who came up with the project. We had our disagreements, but the important thing was the outcome. Swordish people got what they needed for a long time. We will show our best face tomorrow. Meanwhile, I'll make sure that our message of improving the countryside will get across. Alright then, we have a lot of work to do tomorrow. See you in the morning. Once again, good work everyone. The team left, leaving the rest of the evening to prepare for the big day tomorrow. The next day, a stage had been erected inside the central station along the new electrified railway line. The sunny weather created a positive mood in the usually grey Hullsword. The crowd looked quite large. I spotted many party members among them. We began moving towards the stage as the excitement was growing. Signal Lucian to begin the ceremony. We were all ready to begin the ceremony. I gave the green light and the opening address began. Brothers and sisters of Swordland, I welcome you Hullswordians today as a proud servant of this country. Lucian's voice echoed in the central station. Thousands of Swordland and USP flags began to wave as the loud cheers intensified. Without further ado, I invite the President of Swordland to the stage. Hullswordians, I welcome you today to the opening of the ceremony of the L1 high-speed railway. People of Swordland, welcome to the opening ceremony of the L1 high-speed railway. The chanting and excitement of the crowd intensified. A large group began singing the national anthem. At the beginning of this journey, we promised jobs and opportunity. We kept our promise. The project is only the beginning of good tidings. The aim with the L1 railway was to improve development in rural areas and cities in between Hullsword and Lacavan to create economic growth in Greater Hullsword and Gelsard regions. This railway will bring down travel time by half. Traveling between Hullsword and Lacavan is now faster and more comfortable. Brings thousands of new jobs. Many unemployed citizens will have benefited and will benefit on the path of the railway. None of this would have been possible without my colleague with sound advice, Minister Gus Manga. Please come over. I took time off from my duties to personally manage. We have to thank the mind behind the railway project for it all. The esteemed Minister of Economy and Tax, Simon Hull, please come over. Ooh. So I'm not going to hog the limelight myself, but who do I want to push into it? I'm going to thank Simon Hull. Simon walked up beside me. Thanks, Mr. President. Our aim with this project is obvious, to improve the speed and efficiency of transportation. I'm sure each one of you will be proud of the achievements made during the project once we cut that ribbon, and you can get on that train yourselves. Simon mentioned the beginning of a Swordish economic recovery and the plans to stop the recession altogether. Lucian took Simon's place after he was done with his speech. Citizens of Hullsword, there you have it. As promised, Anton Rain, the 4th President of Swordland, has delivered. We moved towards the line where the first electric train was waiting. A red ribbon was hanging by the door of the train. Simon gave me a large pair of scissors to commence the opening while the crowd was watching. Cut the ribbon. I cut the ribbon, which led to a huge wave of cheering from the crowd. Many flashes went off at the same time. Congratulations to all. It was a solid and fruitful effort, hopefully with much more to come. It's a good moment indeed. We have helped so many in the countryside. The train is prepared and ready. The journey to Lacavan should take about 4 hours, and the rest of us will be in the carriage with you. Enter the train. I entered the cab and took a seat with the assistant beside me. The crowd was trying to catch a glimpse of me sitting as driver of the train. Who do you want to travel in the cab with in the cab, Mr. President? Simon. He is the man of the day. But I won't refuse. We can talk about future economic projects. As we began driving the train out of the central station, the media took photos of me and Simon, who smiled to the cameras. The new train was in pristine condition, and the electric engine made much faster acceleration possible while providing minimal noise and maximum comfort. After the relaxing 4-hour drive to Lacavan, we were welcomed by celebratory citizens at Lacavan Station. The railway officially opened to the public as soon as we arrived, and thousands began utilizing it. Today was a great victory for the administration. Yeah, it's been built! Wow, and look at all this stuff that just came up. Look at all of that just got updated. GDP has been updated for so many of those things. I honestly wish there was actually a way to look at it. Yep, this is our first one. I think it was, yep, also for Gelsord, for Anrika. Our GDP has been updated in all of them. Hopefully that's going to help turn our growth around. L1 high-speed railway has been built. Average transportation links. The government's recent investment in infrastructure has had a positive impact on the transportation network connections, which have slightly recovered. However, there is still a need for additional investments to fully restore the transportation network and support sustaining full economic growth. Yes, there is. President Rain opens L1 Railway. With the grand ceremony, President Rain has declared the L1 Railway open with his aides by his side and executives from Taurus Holding. After the ribbon cutting, he has delivered a heartfelt speech and brought attention to the capabilities of the administration. Following his speech, President Rain has driven on a train on the new railway for the first time. Taurus Holding has finally finished construction of the L1 Railway, leaving much to be desired in terms of accuracy and quality. We are unsure why President Rain decided to pick a company other than an underhaul construction for a task of this scale. The government-contracted megaproject aims to bring the two highest output cities in Swordland, Lackavan and Holsword closer. On the opening day, President Rain personally drove a train for the first time ever after a speech highlighting the opportunities this new logistics overhaul will bring. And so, we've simply got the other point. Requested meeting of Iosif Lancia. Arrived at the cubic building that housed most of the military command that resided in Holsword. The grey and brutalist structure looked daunting. I never liked this building. It always made me feel like I was standing under the concrete foot of a giant getting ready to crush me. It made me feel small, and I never quite got used to the feeling even after this many years. At the entrance, I was greeted by Iosif and his military entourage of young officers. Welcome to the Ministry of Defense, Mr. President. Let's go to my office. We walked from the corridor to corridor to reach the office. On the way, we were met with high-ranking officers as well as privates. Every time one of these soldiers saw me, they stopped and saluted me. When we finally arrived at Iosif's office, his entourage saluted us and left. He closed the door and took a seat. Where's Valken? He usually partakes in all military meetings. Valken is busy at the moment overseeing the defense strategies against Rumberg. He leaned back and interlocked his hands. The situation with Rumberg is getting worse, and our lack of funding in the military means that we would fight for survival in a war scenario. The Kruger fortification line in construction should help us in the defense of the mountainous and hilly provinces, and at the worst case delay a potential advance. I will make sure it won't come to that. Not everything might be up to us, sir. Let's move on to our main topic. The mandatory conscription law has become a matter of discussion, and we need to strike a decision whether to keep it or remove it. The facts are that the conscription gives us a large reservist pool that can cover a larger front line, but these troops lack the morale and quality to be offensive elements. My argument would be to remove conscription if our military can stand on its own 2 feet without them. If we are going to have strong allies, why do we need conscripts? A strong knock on the door was heard, and the Chief of Armed Forces, Valken Kruger, walked in quickly with a frown. What is the meaning of this, Iosif? Why haven't I been invited? What is going on here? You are overstepping and interrupting a personal meeting between me and the President. Valken deliberated the situation. I see what is going on here. I mean no disrespect, but I am leading the ground operations, and I must be informed of any strategic changes. What is your opinion on conscription? The matter is rather simple from my point of view. Kept to our traditional army doctrine, it is not devoid of disadvantages. However, at the end of the day, Rumberg has a larger army, air force, and navy. Our conscripts will fill the much-needed weaknesses we have. Throwing bodies at a problem never solves it. Not sure if this is the right approach. We can't have less troops on the front line than the enemy, not with our current structure focused on mass mobilization. I would ask you to consider. I'm going to keep mandatory conscription. You heard your superior, Iosif. Iosif threw an angry look at Valken before turning to me. As you wish, Mr. President. Let me look over my documents to see if there is anything else of concern. That's about it. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you for your time. Left the Ministry of Defense and returned to the Maroon Palace. I would have liked to get rid of conscription, but I actually do agree that the fact, if we had put loads of money into the military and modernized and etc., and actually had a professional standing army, happily get rid of conscription. But I don't think that's the way to go. Okay, they're all a quarter of the way through being built. And Rika, Women's Rights March. A group of demonstrators led by representatives from the Swordish League of Women marched in Anarika, calling for gender equality in Swordland's public education system. Women were also among the counter-protesters who argued for the right to keep educating girls separately from boys in order to preserve Swordish tradition. Interesting. Governor Felix Braun has issued a resettlement order allowing the eviction of Bludish citizens suspected of supporting the BFF and dividing up their communities. This policy has caused controversy and backlash, with many seeing it as a violation of the Constitution and calling for the judiciary to strike the order down. The order is seen as a violation of human rights and an attempt to target Bludish community. The governor argued that it is necessity for security reasons and to combat the BFF's influence in the region. I want to take away this dude's special rights, I'm not going to lie. I've got like a mini country in my own country. It's very annoying. Fight against BFF continues in Bergia. The BFF's propaganda has deeply infiltrated many schools and religious communities in Bludish majority areas, and the government must take immediate action to prevent further radicalization of young people. While some may see the resettlement order as extreme, it is necessary to step to protect the safety and well-being of all citizens in Bergia. Governor of Bergia issues resettlement order. As well as the Workers' Party of Bludia, the governor's policy has been condemned as a violation of basic human rights. For their civil liberties and human rights to be respected is only possible in the special zone, a concept that many Bludish people want to see abolished. Yes. Declares war on Bludish people. That's not a good headline. Women march for equal education in Anarika. A small group of counter-protesters was also present, but drowned out by the cries for equality. Okay. Briefing on the current economic situation. Well, I'm not going to lie, our current economic situation is not looking overly good. Nuclear breakthrough, fantastic! That promises not only to revolutionize its military capabilities, but also greatly enhance its energy sector. The newly developed technology showcases the scientific prowess of the Alliance and reinforces its strategic positioning on the global stage. Great. I'm sure there will be pushback on that one. Well, I don't overly want to see the state of our economy right now, so we're going to leave the episode there, quite frankly, and we're going to see what comes back after that. I'm hoping that we start to see this tick upwards. It would be nice to see it on an upward trend. We've opened the L1 railway. There is, of course, fear about our very large northern border with Rumburg. I completely understand that. So that is something we will potentially have to hold off on and make sure it doesn't happen. And we'll see how that one goes. And so on that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed the episode and you'll continue to join us for the rest of the series. Where, hey, will I get us out of debt? Will I make good or bad decisions? Who only knows? But until next time, as per always, ladies and gentlemen, until we see you again, I hope that you can stay safe, happy, and healthy.